So you set some goals or had specific intentions of things that you were aiming to get yourself to do, but now you've fallen off track. Getting back to it and getting back into the routine can oftentimes feel so much easier said than done. And there's usually a reason that we fell off in the first place that is absolutely worth paying attention to. So in today's video, we are going to get you back on track and do so in a way that will help you stay more consistent in the long term. Hello and welcome to the next video in the Becoming 2.0 You series. This is a series dedicated to helping you change your habits and show up for yourself in the ways that you want to. So if that is something you are interested in, make sure to subscribe and stick around. So you fell off track with your goals or the things that you had intended to do. Congrats on being normal and being human. The first thing I want you to do is to get rid of this idea that there's a scenario in which you are going to stick with something 100%. When you are trying to change something, there are going to be times when you don't stick with it, and that is just normal and part of the process. It's just going to happen, and that does not make you a lesser person or less capable. We don't need to make not sticking with our goals or our routine mean anything about us. And we definitely don't want to perpetuate any kind of inner narrative that leads us to believe or take on an identity that we're not capable, that we're just not a consistent person, that it's just really hard for us to change our habits, more so than other people. When we fall out of routine or fall off the wagon, it is so common for our brains to try to make some kind of story about it. We make it mean something negative. We make it mean something about us. Maybe we get really upset about it. So I think it's really helpful to remember that our brains just tend to dramatize things, and it's really not as big of a deal as our brain is probably making it seem. It's actually a neutral thing. It's just something that happened, and it's information. And look, sticking with something 100%, especially long term, is definitely not the goal. I really don't believe that we are meant to live in the super rigid way of having these rules around how we live our lives and making sure we follow those to a T. I don't believe that we are meant to live with so much structure that we don't get to just be humans and really live and experience life. What really matters is what we're doing most of the time. But we also need to be able to let ourselves live and change and make adjustments and have moments where we are not doing the thing and really being okay with that and really just living in a much more flexible way. So please give yourself a little compassion. Don't beat yourself up about it. Understand it is just part of the process. It's probably going to happen. And all that really matters is how you respond to it. Now, with that understanding, we're going to take some action. If your immediate response is to say, well, I'm just going to get back to it, as well-intentioned as that might be, that approach might lead you to continue to struggle to stick with that thing. Because with that, there's no real plan there, and there's a lack of understanding of why you even fell off in the first place. And if that's the approach that we take, we're likely just going to go about doing things the same way that we did before, and that didn't really work out so well for us. There can be so many reasons why we fall off with something, and it can be extremely helpful to actually have a better understanding of why. So I highly recommend taking a moment to just take a step back and really look at things through an objective lens and get curious. If you really want to change your consistency or how you're showing up, then getting curious about and having a better understanding of why you fell off is one of the best things that you can do. Because from that standpoint, then we can actually tweak our approach in a way more productive way. Problems, although I don't actually consider falling off track to be a problem, but problems are way easier to solve when we have a better understanding of them, rather than just making assumptions or trying random things and just hoping it works. I know that we can be very resistant to reflection because maybe we don't want to look at those things, or maybe it feels like a waste of time, or it feels silly, or it's just something that we are not used to. Your brain might be like, no, we don't need to do that. We just need to get back to it. But you're way more likely to actually do something differently and see more success in your consistency if you actually take the time to reflect. So regardless of whatever thoughts or feelings pop up, let yourself get out of your comfort zone for a moment and just do some reflection. It doesn't have to be a big ordeal. It can just take a couple moments of your time. So just ask yourself, what do I think might have contributed to me falling off track? And you don't have to know the exact right answer of exactly why you fell off track. Let yourself just explore and get curious and find what might be a likely reason. And if you know exactly what happened, that's great too. Was it that you simply forgot? You got so wrapped up into all the other things going on in your lives and even back into your typical habits and routines that it just slipped your mind? If that's the case, then what's a way that you can help keep this top of mind? What's a way that you can actually remind yourself to do this thing? If the answer is that you didn't prioritize it, well, what were you prioritizing instead? What would it look like to prioritize this thing instead? What could you do differently? Was it that you let excuses hold you back from doing the thing? If so, why do you think that is? Were you avoiding it? Were you avoiding discomfort? And if you think this is the biggest reason why you fell off, then one of the best things you can do is really look at, okay, what are the common excuses that I come up with, that I tell myself? And when my brain tells me those things, what do I want to say to myself instead? If my brain tells me I don't have time for that, then I can remind myself it's only going to take 30 minutes. I absolutely can carve out the time for that. Or that might even look like reminding yourself that you're going to hold yourself to a new standard. You're holding yourself to a new standard instead of playing out whatever excuse comes to mind. Did your schedule get really busy? If that's the case, how can you plan for how you can continue to stick with things even when things are really busy? Can you create bare minimums? Can you do a smaller version of the thing? Can you find a way to adjust your schedule to make sure you can still do this thing even when life is busier? Do you feel like you stopped caring about the habit or goal? And if that's the case, did you just convince yourself of that out of avoidance? And if so, why do you think that is? Or was it that you actually don't really care about this goal anymore? And that question can be super helpful because then we can realize maybe this isn't something that I care about enough to prioritize in my life right now. Maybe you realize that it actually doesn't mean that much to you, or you were doing it for reasons that don't mean much to you. Maybe you were doing it because you thought you needed to fit in with something. Or you were doing it because you knew someone else wanted you to do it. Or maybe you look at your current life situation and you're like, okay, I love the idea of doing this, but within my current season of life, this is just not something that I'm willing to prioritize. And that's okay. You can always circle back to it. But reflecting on this can also help you realize that this really is something that does mean a lot to you. And that reminder can be super helpful because with that realization, you have the reminder of, okay, this is something that I really want to make sure I prioritize. And in today's world, it is just so easy for us to get distracted by all the different things that we have going on in our lives. And it can be really easy to actually forget the things that are really meaningful to us. So maybe it helps you realize that it would be really helpful for you to have some kind of a reminder of why this is important to you, why it's something you want to prioritize. And then maybe you make some kind of routine out of looking at something that helps remind you of that. We really do tend to need those kind of reminders. And then based on all that, it becomes, how do you want to approach things moving forward? Is there anything within your approach that you want to change or adjust? And that might include adjusting things outside of your goal action. For example, maybe you've realized that you've been saying yes to every social invitation, but that's led you to a place where you don't have enough time or energy or capacity to really have time for yourself or prioritize the things that you want to. So maybe you carve out time for the things you want to do to show up for yourself first, and then you can say yes to social things that fit into your schedule without you overextending yourself. Or maybe you change your approach by dialing down the things that you're aiming to do. And that is not a bad thing. It does not mean that you are not doing enough, or that you are not good enough, or not capable, or that you're failing in some kind of way. It's not that, okay, you're doing less, so it's not as good. It is finding what is actually fitting into your life and working for you, and is something that you can keep up with rather than trying to force yourself to do something that you can't stick with and then you end up not doing, because that's not going to get you anywhere. So for example, if you are trying to get yourself to go to the gym 5 to 6 days a week, but that's not happening, maybe you make your goal getting to the gym 2 times a week and trying to do some kind of movement at home 3 days a week. And that's not the only way to do it. There are so many different ways that you can dial things down, but just as an example, you want to tweak things to better fit where you are right now. So with whatever you realize played a role in you falling off track, look at how you can tweak your approach or your goal or the things that you're aiming to do to help yourself moving forward. Now, having your new approach is super important. But I have found for many of us, the best way to actually get back to it is to do that action or routine as soon as possible. Because otherwise we might find ourselves putting it starting again off, waiting for the right moment, convincing ourselves it would be better to start at another time. Or we might subtly continue to avoid it without even fully realizing that that's what we're doing. So I want you to focus on how you can get yourself to do this thing, at least some variation or semblance of it, within the next 24 hours. Make it as simple and approachable as you need and really just focus on doing this thing just this one time. Do whatever you can do to get yourself to take action, to show up to doing this thing. If your goal is to get back into a workout routine, how can you get yourself to the gym today or tomorrow? Or if it feels easier for you to get yourself to do, how can you go on a walk today? Or maybe you do some kind of yoga or Pilates YouTube video. Maybe you just focus on some mobility. It's okay if it is not your full goal. You are just focused on getting yourself to do something. And the last thing I will leave you with for today is a reminder that you do not have to be perfect with things moving forward. It is not about being perfect. It is about continuing to show up, even imperfectly, and how you can help yourself do that. And I really believe that the best way to help yourself be more consistent with something is to really treat it as an experiment. Experiment with what actually helps you do that thing. What helps you actually follow through? What helps you do that thing more frequently? What actually feels like a more sustainable approach for you? Anyone could sit here and say, do exactly this or do exactly that, but the only thing that really matters is what actually works for you, because what works for them may not work very well for you. What works really well for you may not work for me. We're all actually pretty different. So instead of trying to approach things from a place of, okay, here's the plan, I just need to stick with it, try approaching things from a place of, okay, I'm just trying things out. I'm experimenting, I'm observing, I'm playing around with what actually helps me be more consistent with this thing or do it more frequently. And that will help you understand yourself better and better understand what works well for you, which will absolutely help you be more consistent and make things feel way more sustainable for you. So as a quick recap, falling off track is normal and it is just part of the process. It does not have to mean anything negative, especially about you. You fell off track and it's neutral. It's information, and there is a learning opportunity in there that is going to help and benefit you. Number 2, look at things objectively and get curious about what might have led you to fall off track. Number 3 is looking at how you want to change or adjust your approach. And number 4, do some variation of your goal action within the next 24 hours. If this was helpful, if you got any kind of value out of it, please let me know by giving the video a like or leaving a comment. It helps so much and just really helps me know what is actually resonating with you. If right now you are really focused on changing your habits or stepping into a 2.0 version of you, make sure to check out the other videos in this series and to subscribe for future videos. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day and I will see you in another video. Bye.